Guys, millions of tenants are paying rent on a weekly, fortnightly, monthly basis, and there are hacks to save money on paying a rent. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Charlie,
Good morning, Mark.
how are ya?
I'm very well. It's a lovely day in Sydney this morning. We've got blue skies, great weather. It's starting to look like summer finally, or what left we do have. And yeah, it's going to be a good day.
Yeah, if anyone who's not in Sydney, it is the perfect day ever.
Yeah. It's driving
Ever,
down the
ever,
road this
ever.
morning. The birds were chirping. The sun was just rising over the ocean, and it was poetic, you could say.
Oh, and staff member of the month, Charlie.
Oh,
Congrats.
stop it. Thank you. Couldn't do without you, Mark. But yeah, wonderful. Let's dive headfirst into what we're talking about today. One of my preferred topics for sure when it comes to rental payments. Now we get people asking every day, and when I say every day, I mean every day. Not
Every day.
regardless. Yeah, exactly. Regardless of if they're a tenant of ours or not, they're a prospective tenant. They're a long-term tenant for 1 or 2 to even 5 years now. No one can seem to work out the cheapest way, to pay rent. So they're obviously paying every week to fortnight to month, and different, I guess, avenues or different ways, I should say, of paying rent pose different surcharges, different bonuses. Some pay you longer, some pay you shorter. It's definitely a maze.
So there's hacks to it. Now, in terms of payment systems, or sorry, not. I guess let's first talk about the different methods of payment. We won't.
Yeah,
Then
for sure.
Then we're going to go into the gateway, different gateways, and then we're going to go into patterns
For
of
sure, for
payment.
sure.
All of this are different with different agencies, but what are the different ways a tenant can get rent to the agent in order to pay the landlord?
So there's plenty of different ways, especially at Novak, and they do vary between agencies. Some post different methods, some don't. Here at Novak specifically, we have a card machine in office. Tenants are more than happy to come in, tap the card just like they would at the grocery store, which clears their rent for the period, which we receive immediately. We have a bank check, which can be dropped into office. Quite easy for the old timers that like to pay their rent that way. We've got iPay Rent, which is our rent taking system. Now what that does is puts all the preference in regards to the tenant. Now they nominate their account details, their credit card or bank account details. And they choose whether they want to pay weekly, fortnightly, monthly, or 4 weekly, depending on their schedule. It does vary in regards to what I think is preferred, but for most people, some people like to set it up with their pay cycle. So if they get paid, I guess, fortnightly, their rent is due maybe the day or two after. It kind of just sets up and flows quite casually.
All right, so that's pretty much EFT. You got your check. You can pay by check.
Yep.
You can come in and tap.
Yep.
But also that iPay is not just EFT; it's credit card, so they can set up through these guys through both. Any other ways to pay rent?
Yeah, so we can do a money order, which is first from the Australian Post. Now it's a
People
bit of
still do that.
People definitely still do that, which is what I was finding. It's a bit old school, but that's how we run. So it's good.
You let them do it. We let them do it. All right.
Exactly.
So guys, they're the different methods that you'll see agents across New South Wales accepting rent. Now, I want to also move over to payment gateways, because this is where you're also going to, as a tenant, find there's going to be differentiation. And this is all roads are leading to Rome. So we're going to explain, after we've explained this, we're going to explain the cheapest way to get money to your agent so you can save money by the end of the year. Now, payment gateways are a bit unusual. So agents will use a third party to take money from your account. So normally, these payment gateways are quite low cost. We use iPay as an example. What do they charge to do a sweep out of an account?
Yeah, so there's, without giving too much away, I don't want to tell everyone what the cheapest way is just yet. There's two different ways on iPay. You can pay via credit card details, so you can plonk your details into the system, or you can use like your BSB and bank account. Now the bank account is 80 cents every transaction, very low amount, especially when you're paying monthly. That's only 80 cents coming out every time, whereas the credit card is 2.2%. So expect when you're paying,
I think that's Amex. I think Mastercard and Visa could be slightly less, but Amex is definitely 2. So, guys and girls, payment gateways for agents, watch out for this, because every agency does not operate the same. So your payment gateway is the third-party company which will sweep out of your account and then deposit into the agent's trust account, and then the agent will send it off to the owner. So when you pay your rent, it'll sit in there for up to 30 days, and then at the end of the month, it will get swept out and sent to the owner. So when you're paying your rent, you think it's going straight to the owner. It's not. It's going to sit in the agent's trust account. The agent will often pay bills, strata, water, council, repairs. Then at the end of the day, they'll send the money to the owner and they'll remit to the owner. There's a little hack in there. If you want to be a good citizen as a tenant, just remember the landlord is looking at their bank account often at the end of the month, because that's when they get the money in rent. And if you fall short, but they're definitely going to see it at the end of the month, because that's when all eyes are on their bank account. And when they see you short in rent potentially, which you shouldn't be, that's when they're going to go aggro. But the agency also does, we deposit the money you've sent to the owner, to some owners mid-month. So the 2 cycles that an agent will pass the tenant's rent from the rental trust account across to the owner will be mid-month for probably about 30% of owners, mid-month and end of month, and about 70% of the owners, the money will go to the agent at the end of the month. There's a hack in that, which we've spoken about there as well. So payment gateway, we use the company iPay. So when you are told by an agent to go to a third-party gateway, don't freak out, because we don't have the banking infrastructure to do direct deposits. So we use these payment gateways.
Yeah. Which I think is definitely the best way. Now, it might not necessarily be the cheapest way, but when you've got an automated system that automatically takes the money out the exact same time every week or fortnight, it sets it up as a routine. You just put the money in there and don't worry about it. Don't even look at it. It just goes, pays your rent, no worries. I feel like that's definitely the best way to look at it. If you're putting it in your, hands every week, to try and remember to call up and pay your rent, or to come into office and to drop a check off, it can kind of get lost in translation a bit. Something will come up, you're busy one day that you should have done it, and then you're starting to slip into arrears, which obviously is detrimental. Now, this is something I wanted to touch on very quickly as well. I'm sure you'll agree, Mark. But just clear the air in regards to rental arrears and the termination that can swiftly follow should a tenant, slip into too many arrears. Now, what it is, guys, is it's 14 days. 14 days no payment and that termination letter is being sent regardless of current situations. Like you said a bit earlier, Mark, it's not just us upset. It's not the agent upset that they're not getting their money. It's the landlord who's looking in their bank account and seeing all zeros. Good morning, Luke. So yeah, it's tap and go rent here from Jonathan Creek. It's one of the best ways we're seeing. The funds are transferred into our account immediately, so it can pay you from that day forward.
And cash is gone.
Yeah, I think cash is dead and buried.
All right, so 14 days is your arrears, if anyone doesn't know out there. Now, payment cycles, this is really important, and we are getting there, guys. It's the cheapest way to pay rent, but all these things are taken into consideration, so we did want to speak about all these things before we told you the cheapest way to pay rent. So payment cycles, we are generally we will accommodate all cycles as long as tenants are ahead in their rent. But you may find on starting the tenancy, a landlord or an agency insists on monthly or insists on fortnightly. But as a tenant, you can say, no, look, this is how I want to pay it. So you can pay weekly, you can pay fortnightly, and you can pay
monthly.
Now, the monthly plays with people's heads. Why?
Yeah, look, what monthly does, it's definitely good in regards to a landlord perspective, but because you're paying the month, you're already set for another 4 weeks. You don't need to worry about it. But in regards to the tenant, it doesn't set those good routines like I was touching on earlier. You're not paying rent the exact same time too often. It's long. It's stretched out in between rental payments. And like I was saying earlier, it's easy to forget. If someone told me to think in a month that I have to do something, odds are I'm probably not going to remember it. So I always suggest, my highest preference as a rental agent, as seeing a wide variety of people who pay rent, is fortnightly is always the best way. It sets up your regular payment. It sets you into a good routine, but it doesn't feel like you're taking rent every 2 days, and it doesn't feel like you're paying rent once I guess a year as monthly would.
So it's I guess it's a bit too regular, that weekly, and it's a bit not, and it just feels like it's donkeys when it's monthly. All right, So let's move over to the cheapest way to pay rent.
Yeah, can I get a bit of a drum roll, Mark?
Drum roll.
Yeah. It's tap and go. We were talking about it all day today, the revolutionary way. It's tap and go at only 28 cents a transaction. It's definitely the cheapest way to pay your rent. Now, it's not always convenient for most people. Obviously, living a bit further away from our office in DY. But for those who are, and for the majority who are, tap and go in our card machine is 28 cents a transaction, regardless of a Visa, debit, or MasterCard. And it's always the cheapest way.
So one thing that people don't consider, that I consider first and foremost, is people's time. Now, if you consider that you're getting paid 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, $100 an hour, whatever you're getting paid as a tenant, if you've got to sit in a car and get out of a car and walk into a real estate agent's office and pay the rent on a fortnightly basis, that's 26 times a year, and you multiply that out with what your labour cost actually is, it probably, what you will find the cheapest way technically per transaction will end up translating to the most expensive way per transaction.
I like the way you think.
So have a think, guys. Have a think, because you will hear from agents. They will say this is the cheapest way, but you've got to look at in your life what works for you. And I know, like, the renters are not negotiable. a roof over your head is a not negotiable. I don't mind setting up regular payments with a real estate agency. It is a not negotiable that has to be paid. You may change your mind on a movie ticket. You don't want to send that. You don't want to have that stuff regularly coming out of your account. But a roof over your head, a car repayment, these things are non-negotiable. They should be set up on a regular basis. We are suggesting fortnightly. And as a matter of fact, the less regular those payments can be, the less transactional costs you're going to have. So if you can have that discipline to move yourself over to monthly, you can halve or a quarter your transactional costs. Often because sometimes they're irrelevant to the size of the transaction. We charge you the same amount. So keep an eye out for all of those little hacks that we've mentioned today.
Exactly right. Exactly right. That's a great way to put it. Wonderful. Well, I think that's just about it. Hey.
Thank you, Legend. Everyone, hope that helped you today. I know it's an obvious one, but not obvious for so many people, because the amount of people that actually ask us is incredible. So hopefully it helped you. And if it doesn't help you, maybe you can forward to someone who will help.
Lovely. Wonderful.
See you guys.
Pleasure talking. See you, everyone.
Thanks, Charlie. See you, mate. Bye-bye.